Welcome back to another episode of Honestly Though, the podcast show. I'm your host, Joel Ramsey, shooting this video, very interesting video, on the day of Andrew Tate's release. And never planned it. But going to be talking about a really interesting topic, a topic that I have no experience on, and a topic that I'll be blindly answering questions and giving my opinion as I do each and every episode I drop on this wonderful channel. Looking nice, looking sharp. I can't bother to touch myself. I pause, but looking nice and sharp. Visit the barber, and barber was amazed by what he did, so he let me go free. I just decided to give him some money. I don't think he really wanted it because, wonderful work. But enough on me, and back to my thoughts and my opinions, because yours doesn't matter. Because it's Honestly Though, the podcast show, and I'm your host, Joel Ramsey. What else? Before we get into the show, I'd like to thank so in this episode, we'll be talking about masculinity. We'll be exploring 15 questions. I dug that up from some website online, the first website that popped up actually. But it will be dealing with 15 questions on masculinity from the perspective of 4 friends that this person interviewed. I'm going to be reading the questions, giving my opinion after assessing some of the answers by the friends that this person interviewed. So I hope you like it. I hope you leave some comments on your thoughts on this very sensitive subject, very sensitive topic, big topic, massive topic, and I'll just be sharing my small opinion on it. Would love to definitely have episodes where I have guests on talking about masculinity, and so we'll see how that goes. But without further ado, I'm rambling a lot now, and so let's get right in. So the first question is, what is your definition of being a man? Tough question. Simplest answer I could give you right now would be, thank you for tuning in. This has been episode 7 of Honestly Though, the podcast show, and I'm out. That'd be the simplest answer I could give you. But on a serious note, what is my definition of being a man? So first thing we're going to do is go through the responses of these 4 friends, and then I will share my answer, because I don't want to just think of it right off the bat. I'd love some assistance, and so that's why I chose this topic or this forum. Blah, blah, blah. So it says Larry. So Larry is the first guy, and Larry says, I believe there is no one specific answer to this question. Being a man is not a one-size-fits-all answer. Manhood is not defined by personality, intelligence, social status, or sexual orientation. The old stereotype of John Wayne or Clint Eastwood taking out the bad guy, mano a mano, is not an accurate representation of what manhood is all about. I believe being a man is defined by their character. Though this is not an inclusive list, I do believe it represents the parameters of the qualities of being a man. A man is someone that is responsible, honest, loyal, reliable, compassionate, balanced, family, faith, work, and fun. So that's Larry's opinion. You know what they will call him in the red pill community? Beta. That's Larry. And you don't want to be like Larry, right? Cool. The next person is Mike. Mike sounds like the guy that you got to go to for the answers, yeah? Let's see what Mike has to say. Mike says, first, you must be male. Second, a man is responsible for himself. That does not mean completely self-reliant, but is aware and considerate of his own self being either a benefit or a burden to the world around him. No, that's a man, yeah? That's like the truest of men. That's Mike. Mike is the, yeah. So that's Mike's response. We're going to go into Nick. And Nick own is short. Don't know if it would be masculine to say short and spicy. So Nick own is short and spicy. And he says, a typified set of traits, a common denominator possessed or idealized. Idealized. I don't know how you pronounce that. But that's his perspective. Justin, a man knows who he is, knows what he believes, knows what he wants, and acts in a way that reflects all of the above. So Justin just said nothing. That's what I got from all of that. But it's my time to give my opinion. So here it goes. That's a nice set of responses, if I'm being fair, if I'm being honest, a little. So what is my opinion of being a man? What's my definition of being a man? I got into this a bit intensely last year. Last year, when Matt Walsh, conservative commentator, spoke on and did a series and a documentary about the subject of what a woman is. And, you know, despite how ridiculous the question might be, a lot of the responses, not from the people that, you know, out there, you know, not from them, but the responses from people within the so-called conservative space, those were the more, in my opinion, the more ridiculous arguments. And I do actually mean they were the more of the two, because, you know, one extremely ridiculous. But you hardly ever heard them talk about God being a factor in what a woman is. And it was primarily down to science. And I can understand it because, you know, from what I've understood about the age that we're living in, the postmodern age is a response to the modern age. And my understanding of the modern age is that it was about how science is fact. To the best of my knowledge, it was where it was established that through scientific research, you can come to the truth. And you know, while it might sound true, science is a very biased field. And so, you know, to judge something like what a woman is or what a man is based on science, it kind of weird and kind of incomplete, extremely incomplete in my opinion. And so for me, in watching the documentary, though I agreed a lot with what was said from Matt Walsh's perspective and from anybody that was, you know, saying the basic definition that you learn in school for what a woman is, it left that question of what actually is a woman. After you pass the sex and the gender discussion, what is a woman? Because that is the more topical discussion or the more interesting discussion that most podcasts have been centered around. Roles, gender roles primarily. So for me, that inspired conversation about the subject of masculinity. And further to when I was no longer in a relationship, I got hooked. I'd say hooked, because for a while I was binging on the content, but I got hooked on red pill content, alpha male content, and it was enjoyable. I won't tell you any lies at all. That was one of the most palatable discussions. And I think what drew me into that discussion was the aspect of simping. And so I think for me, you just come out of a relationship, you're a bit more emotional. You want something to soothe that pain that you're going through. And so that was there talking to me and it was just bashing me about, things that I have not done, that I know I should have done, that caused me to put myself in certain weird situations that I wouldn't necessarily have been in had I adapted and gotten what I needed to get, developed what I needed to have developed, stuff like that. And so that was the hook for me. But then in clamping on tightly to that field or that group, that ideology, I realized that there was something that was missing from the argument. And at the time, I couldn't put my finger on it. Like, I think I was, at that time, I wasn't, focusing on God or in church or none of those stuff. So the God factor wasn't like right on the tip of your tongue to say, okay, this have nothing to do with God. But there was just something in the content that I was watching that, if you hear somebody shouting, you're saying to yourself, you're not teaching somebody anything if you're shouting at them, or you won't get the proper vulnerability from somebody that wants to learn. And so that would just always be there, constant, because my focus wasn't on God at the time to say, my focus just wasn't there. So I don't know if that's why, or it's just the side of me that would be probably misogynistic or sexist or whatever. But there was just something that stood out to me in some of these red pill content. And then one day it just clicked. And the question was, what is a man? What defines a man? Who defines a man? Who says what a man should be? Because all this time, this is just in the space of probably 2 months. Probably 2 months, if that much. Because I was watching some of the content when I just started, as kind of coming off some of the content when I just started the show. And the show I started in November, I think. And so it was just about a month and a half of like binging this content. And then the question came to me that, who defines a man? All these men were giving their opinions of what a man is. If they weren't giving their opinions, it was somebody else's opinions. And, the question of, so what is a man? Who defines what a man is? And so, yeah, that was a question that stood out. That's where I pulled like the strongest, loudest breaks ever. I don't know if that's words that you use for breaks. But I just do a complete 135 on that path that I was going down. And so I approached it a little bit more differently now. So I would watch it still. And in watching it, I would now become aware and look out for the fact that they're not saying, you know, the right things. They're saying how they feel. And one of the things I used to recognize in the content was that, say for example, they might say women are too emotional, you know, they shouldn't be emotional, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. I'd realized that, you know, them doing this shouting, cursing, all of those stuff to things that don't fit within their what do you call that, opinions or worldview, it was an emotional response. And so the more I started to watch it and critique it, the more I guess I was becoming less dependent on that content to ease some of how I felt. The more I started to criticize it, the more I started to realize the flaw. I won't say it completely flawed as a movement, because there are definitely good points that will kick you off a particular path you're going down and will kind of try to align you to the right path. But again, because it's not based in first who God is, and God is the factor that decides masculinity, femininity, so forth, so on, that's where, you know, you had to draw the line. And so for me, the first thing in what being a man is, you know, definitely it would be a God-fearing person, a God-loving person, somebody that understand the aspect of what love is. And if you love something, you put your best foot forward, and you seek to take care of that thing that you love, or that person that you love. And if you love God, I think that you will want to please God. And, you know, God have a set guideline throughout the Bible that dictates how a man should operate, how a man should function, what it is to be a man. And so that's where I think it would have to start. Masculinity discussion is not a true masculinity discussion without an appreciation and a love for God and for the principles that He dictates. So when they're talking about how, you know, a woman that sleep around is not valuable, but a man that sleep around is valuable or is desired, it might be true on a hedonistic sense of, you know, whatever, but on the biblical sense of it, the man is just as much a nasty, disgusting person because he's sleeping around, and so, or a flawed or sinful person, to keep it mild, just as awful. And so, for example, another one would be the fact that I probably would have loved to have heard somebody say that a woman that used to sleep around kill 100 bodies, 150, 300 bodies to her forehead or to her name, but she now transform her life. I just throwing out that figure. Is a woman of respect or value or whatever to the man that she finds? I would love to hear them say that on the same basis of men that sleep around, or not even sleep around, men that are bums, just complete bums for most of their life, and then they choose to turn their life around. They value that type of a man more than a woman that turn her life around and become something, make something of herself after, you know, just whoring out her entire life. They champion men, and they still put down women. They still degrade women. They still bash them. And, you know, it's sad because the content is geared towards men. It's not geared towards the betterment of society. It's geared towards men that have been hurt, how to fix them in a short, I don't know what the term would be. Is fixing them improperly. I don't know if you get what I'm saying, but they were facilitating men, and I get why you would facilitate men, but at the same time there was nothing really positive about the message, aside from, for women that is, aside from the fact that if you're a virgin and you find a high value man, you're a good woman. Yeah, it was an unfortunate field, an unfortunate area, because it do, in the long run, it do benefit men to indulge red pill content, alpha male content that isn't God-centered or has something to do, or first is based in your relationship with God. So I found, there's a guy that I found, a Catholic guy that I found that dealt with some masculine subject matters, that I started to watch as well, because I was trying to find persons that would talk about what a man is in a healthy way, to see if that content actually existed out there. And of course it would exist, but the popularity of the I'd call them toxic. Not toxic masculinity, but I'd call the content toxic, in that a young mind, say 16-year-old, don't have no sense, just have him first so-called breakup, and the breakup is based on the fact that these two people immature, don't have any sense, no sense at all, and she probably had one relationship before that, and they're sleeping together as well. Teenagers, and if you have sense, you know that take place, right? So the content would kind of get a 16-year-old malleable brain, if that's the word, to view the female that have sex before him as damaged goods, because she have sex before him and the guy did do whatever, and she it's good that him leave her because she not pure, and she for the streets because I don't know, she got parties, him got parties as well, but she got parties, she dress a certain way, whatever, but it leave him in a position where him kind of think that he is the better person in the situation, when the two of them were idiots, and the two of them shouldn't have been in a relationship because the two of them never have no sense. And so the content do call for accountability amongst men. It is almost like a reaction to feminism, almost birthed out of like the men going their own way type of content. And so it's sad for me to see that content, and why I would consider it toxic is because of that, because you don't know how all of those unnecessary topics or point of views affect the young brain that going through hurt, that turn to you and your content for guidance, because they, you know, as men or as human beings, you don't know, or we don't know how to go to people for help in some situations, and so we isolate and find help by ourselves in the comfort of our own homes, whatever, blah blah blah. So it's sad because that person going to find that content and embrace everything that is there to learn. And you don't know where it's going to lead them down. You don't know the path, the outlook they're going to have on women because of that first heartbreak that they had. The first heartbreak that they had when they never had a brain to even process the heartbreak. So yeah, it's sad. And what else can I say? One of the things I noticed as well, or one of the thoughts that I had towards some of these content creators, was that these people don't look attractive. They're not attractive. A lot of them not attractive men. And for them to be, to me, when you hear women responses sometimes being that of, obviously the guy, did have a heartbreak, or somebody leave you, somebody hurt you, blah blah blah. It's sometimes true. Sometimes it's true. Sometimes a lot of these people get them heartbroken. I did get hooked on it because I was heartbroken. I was in pain, as whatever. But it's almost like they don't want to admit, say, this is what them did experience, or, when them did young, somebody hurt them, or somebody tell them, say, oh, you're ugly, you look like a bird, or something, or you smell bad, or something. Some girl that they really had a crush on, let them down and disappoint them and break them poorly the heart. We do like to admit that we experience pain, and because we experience the pain, we need to let it out in a aggressive way in order to seem like we never get hurt. Yeah, it unfortunate, and that's why I think a lot of these people, a lot of them experience and hide. When if they were supposed to be honest about it, I think that's where they would help the young men that coming up, that brain don't form out properly yet, and them experience pain and trauma. It would help them to process those situations a bit more. Yeah, but it is what it is, I guess, at the end of the day. And all of our lives are being guided by an invisible force that is trying to teach us and guide us towards the path that would benefit us in the long run. And so you don't have an excuse as a young man if you get hooked onto the content and become awful and disgusting. I don't think you have an excuse, because there's just something in you. Probably not. But there will always be a force pushing you in the right direction. And if you find with looking at men cussing off women, then something wrong. I don't know, something completely wrong. But that's question one. I don't think I answered the question, but that's question one. What is my definition of being a man? God-fearing would be the first thing. A man that seeks after God and then is obedient to God. And in doing so, eventually that will translate to somebody that is sacrificial, somebody that is protective, somebody that is composed, adaptable, somebody that is strong-minded, strong-willed, somebody that is gentle, empathetic, sympathetic, somebody that is bold, courageous, honest, somebody that's honest, somebody that is able to take criticism, able to listen to criticism, able to admit that they're wrong the second time around, not necessarily the first time around. But yeah, that'd be my definition of what a man is. And I think I might make this, you know, make this in parts and release it gradually. So yeah, that would be my first response, first question, first answer to question 1 of this masculinity topic. And yeah, that's my take on it. That's the story of how I got into it. I think I got into it years ago, but I think I stopped. I don't remember why. I think I met a school friend that was also interested in the subject matter, and he was just aggressive, extremely aggressive. And for me, I like jokes that are sexist, jokes that are misogynistic, if they are just that, just jokes. I really love them. I know I should cut them out because eventually they might become, you know, a lived thing. But I really love them. I really love those type of jokes. And I like the reaction that it evoked from women that at least know me. I know that I'm not being serious. I love it because, you know, they have this disgusted smile. I probably like a disgusted smile. Yeah, I have issues, sure. But what was I going to say? I love sexist jokes. But saying that to say, when I hear men that's serious about misogyny and sexism, like real misogyny and real sexism, when they sound passionate about their dislike for women, it's hard for me to stomach talking to them, because my approach to women is based predominantly in the fact that I like to get that. I like is a strong word. I don't want you to think that weird, but I enjoy a bit of content in a funny way. I like if you feel like you want to beat me up because you disagree with what I'm saying, but you're also able to laugh at what I'm saying. Because I don't mean it. I don't mean things that I might say that might be, if maybe when they're heard by a stranger, they might consider it to be toxic. I don't mean them. So I say them to evoke that repulsive type of emotion. But I heard him being extremely aggressive. I don't remember what it was. I could check back to see what it was that we're talking about. And to me, it just sounded like somebody that did go through heartbreak and things just, you know, never work out properly. That's what it felt like to me. So yeah, I that's one reason why I don't really joke about it with men, because I don't want, if me and you joking, then it gonna sound like you're serious, and then now I'm gonna feel like, all right, I have to back out of this because yeah, this take a left turn. But because I'm one of the persons that probably buy into the fact that a joke is just a joke. It's just a joke that is just a joke. But I say all of that to say I got involved in it, stopped, because, you know, I realized that something is wrong with because the other movement, this men going their own way thing, to me, I realized that it was just another reaction to feminism. And I don't think it's a very masculine thing to follow up a female. And it's not a disrespect to women, but if if a female arguing with you, you don't if so, for example, and when I say argue, I don't mean civil argument. I mean if a female lashing you with words, dissing you with all kind of words, it's not a masculine thing to follow that up. You take the big approach and you walk away. And that to me seemed like what certain of these movements are. They're not bad outrightly, but they form, in my opinion, they started out or formed or they're made popular by guys that don't really have the wherewithal to be telling you what a man is. And so yeah, it's unfortunate. It's a needed discussion. The people that should be having the discussions, they're not really having those discussions. They're leaving it up for persons to go out and figure that out. I think the only male Christian person that if you say this person's name, you know him talking about masculinity in a healthy way, would be Miles Monroe. That's the only person that if you same name, I'd be like, okay, I'm talking about masculinity, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. And so the Christian space, in dire need of masculine men to talk about masculinity and to live a life that would be worth emulating. Because a lot of the men in the Christian space, they're incomplete, they're inadequate, they're selfish, and yeah, it's not beneficial for guys like myself that incomplete, inadequate, selfish, to emulate somebody that already incomplete, inadequate, and selfish. So for me, that's what I think is lacking. I would love to add to that space of, helping men become men, but I'm not there to help them. For me, this is a journey for me to become a man. As I said, by 40, I'll be a man. You can put $100 million on that. Yeah. So I look forward to the rest of the episode. I look forward to, the thoughts that I'll come up with for the 14 questions that are remaining. And I guess this one is a bit long because I wanted to share my thoughts on it, on the first question. So this is my thoughts on the first question. A lot of it was unnecessary, but that's what you get when you tune into Honest Without a Podcast show. You get honest opinions and though something. So until next you see me post, take care of yourself and be a man. It's simple. Just tough it out. And shut up. Whatever you do, don't share your opinions or your feelings with anyone, especially your wife. You don't do that. Until next time, this is Honest Without a Podcast show. I'm out. Get some help. You need it. Psycho.